and ask you to decide for yourself.
When our That's Incredible camera crew went out to cover a UFO sighting, they found more than they bargained for. They met 3 people in Dayton, Texas, who on December 29th, 1980, saw what they believed was an actual flying saucer.
It happened on Road 1485. Coming home from a bingo game were Vicki Landrum, Betty Cash, and little Colby Landrum.
After the incident, he was real sick and he'd have nightmares. He'd break out in a cold sweat and he'd try to run and he'd say he was burning up. And when he would start back to sleep, every time he'd close his eyes, he'd whimper, you know, and everything. And sometimes it would be 3 and 4 hours before I could get him back to sleep. He was so upset about it till he would draw on books, on paper. He'd draw it and he'd get mad because it didn't come out like his mind had it to be. And I bought this in order for him to work out in his own mind how the object was shaped and how it looked. So maybe he would quit having so many horrible dreams about it. I guess we'd been traveling about 8 or 10 miles. All at once there was something up in the sky. It was real bright and it was yellow. We couldn't tell what it was. And every once in a while the trees, you know, going down this road, we'd lose it. And then we traveled 3 miles from where we first saw it. And it come down right in front of us. And I screamed at Betty to stop. Betty started walking toward it, trying to discover what it was, I guess.
It was an oblong object as large as a water tower in the shape of a diamond. The light was blinding, and the flames came out of the bottom end.
And finally there was a big gush of fire that come down, and it was hot. It was so hot that sweat was just pouring off of us.
As the object drifted off to the west, we became aware of many helicopters in the area.
We come on home, and I taken a bath, and I washed Kobe off, and he was burning, and I was burning. I greased us down, and we went on to bed. And the next morning when we got up, well, he was vomiting, had an upset stomach, and I was sick. And Betty was so sick till she couldn't even get up.
Betty had mysterious burns on her arms, on her legs, on her whole body. Her hair also started falling out in ugly clumps.
The next day, Betty checked into...
I did examine Betty Cash and Vicki Landrum and found that, particularly with Mrs. Cash, that she did have a dermatitis. She had some skin changes. I felt that it was conceivable that part of her problem, part of her skin problem, might have been secondary to the exposure to radiation that she described. It is a known fact that patients who have had excessive exposure to radiation do indeed come up with nausea and vomiting as a part of their symptoms.
Burns, blisters, nausea, a close encounter of a very unpleasant kind. An expert UFO investigator was called in.
Here. They're based here.
Did the military know something they weren't telling? John Schuessler investigated and found dead end after dead end. He contacted every Army and Air Force base within helicopter range of Road 1485. Some denied they had helicopters like the ones described. Others admitted that they did. Grayfield in Houston, for example, had more than 100. Still, all denied emphatically that any of their copters were anywhere near the site where Vicki Landrum, Colby Landrum, and Betty Cash said they saw the object. But those 3 weren't the only ones who say they saw it.
We have several witnesses that claim to have seen the object or a similar object within 1 to 2 hours prior to this, only a few miles away. It gave off no flames during any of that time. It seemed to fly normally, although slowly and quietly in the area. Then suddenly, at this point along this abandoned road, it was shooting off a vast amount of flame, which is not at all like normal UFO cases. One must think that it was operating abnormally or in trouble. We can say that the helicopter came because someone thought the object was in trouble. They encountered a bright, glowing object, which could have been one of 2 things. A typical UFO, as the public understands it as being, is something unnormal, unnatural, that happens to be in our environment. Where it comes from, I would have no idea of knowing. Secondarily, it could have been a governmental experiment. Quite it possibly could have been that. I would rather think it wasn't the latter, however, because if there was an experiment being taken in this area with a high population density nearby, they could have burned the people like it burned these three people. They could have killed hundreds of thousands, possibly, with this kind of a device. And I really don't think someone would be that careless. Therefore, I have to consider this is an unknown at this point in time and remains an unknown object that was encountered by military helicopters.
I thought it was the end of the world.
What did happen out on Road 1485 that night? Here's one of the witnesses you just saw, Vicki Landrum. And with her is the Director of Counseling and Testing at the University of Wyoming, Dr. R. Leo Sprinkle. Welcome, Vicki. We're going to find out more about Vicki's incredible experience. Vicki has agreed to be hypnotized, and Dr. Sprinkle has already placed her into a hypnotic trance backstage.
So could you now take Vicki back to that time?
Yes, she will experience again the events as they happened on that particular night.
And Doctor, in this condition, will Vicki be able to remember things that she might not ordinarily be able to remember?
Yes, she'll recall the events as she recalls them from the night of December 29th, 1980, and re-experience the events.
Why don't you go ahead and do that now?
Okay. Okay, as I reach over and touch on the forehead, just let yourself go back to the events. December 29th. Okay, now you can respond to questions. Okay, Vicki, we're going to take you back to the time, the night of December 29th, 1980. Feel yourself in the car. You're riding along in the car. Colby's with you. Betty is driving. And now you look up through the windshield and you see something. Just go right ahead and describe what you see. Go right ahead and talk and describe what you see.